The CV90. This is probably the best, I would say it is the best fighting vehicle in the world. This is actually the prototype, chassis number 001, produced in 1988. And this was the first time that I came across this vehicle when my colleague and friend Anders Möller was the commander of this actual turret, mounted on a different chassis at the time. I was the commander of the first Leopard 2 that was tested in Sweden in 1989, and we met down at the Ravlunda firing range in the south of Sweden, where they tested this vehicle together with a few other ones. So that was the beginning of the test period during 1988 till 1992. So I had seen this vehicle sort of from the side during a number of years before I did my own training on the vehicle years later. This prototype differs a lot from the series production, and it also differs a lot from the export versions. There are many things to say, and if we should tell you everything there is to know about the CV90, we would probably need a week filming, and now we will dig into some interesting details about this vehicle and also how it differs from the other ones, the series production and the export versions. The CV90 is an infantry fighting vehicle. 20 tons weight of this one. The later ones, they got heavier, and the ones that they are producing today has a weight of 35 tons. It has a two-man turret. This one, the Swedish version, has a 40mm Bofors L70 gun. And in the rear there is a transport capacity of 8 soldiers. So the crew is 3 men, the driver, gunner and commander, and the squad is 8 soldiers in the back. The most important requirement for this vehicle was to achieve the best cross-country performance possible. And because of that, Hägglunds worked during several years with a test bed in order to find the best ways of finding out the ratio between the length of the vehicle, the width, the weight, and all of this together. Hägglunds tested and squeezed a bit here, did a bit adjusting there, and they found the perfect combination. And because of this, if you look at the vehicle, the turret is slightly to the left of the vehicle, because the engine and gearbox are on the right side. So in order to get the perfect balance of the vehicle, you have to have the weight in the center of the vehicle. Otherwise it would get stuck quite easily. And later on, when the power pack was modified, the clutch brake system that was in there from the beginning was changed to the X300 steering transmission. They had to squeeze in this engine and gearbox and to modify the chassis a bit, so the engine and gearbox became a little bit longer, so they had to move the turret a bit, they had to move the driver's compartment a bit in order to fit in with this ratio of all the different versions that they needed to have. But it was possible, and today this vehicle has a 14-liter Scania V8 engine. The modern version has the 16-liter Scania V8 engine, and that was possible because they already done the homework, so they had all there is to know about how to find the best possible ratio between length, width and weight in order to get the best cross-country performance possible. So this is the engine bay of the CV90, and the hatch is pretty much the same on the series production, apart from the opening. This is a manual opening with a torsion bar. On the series production there is a hydraulic pump to open up the hatch. Personally, I feel this is a lot better, easier, not so much that you could jam or break, but for some reason they choose the hydraulic opening. On the inside of the hatch there is a cooling device, so you draw the air to the engine through this part of the hatch in order to reduce the signature of the heat caused by the engine. So if you look with an infrared camera to the front of this vehicle, you will not see that much heat caused by the engine because of this cooling system. The engine and transmission on this one is the one with an automatic gearbox and the clutch brake system, which was the original option, later changed to the X300 gearbox and steering transmission located in here. The engine is further down there, so this is the complete power pack that you lift out. Not as easy as on a Leopard 2, but easy enough compared to a lot of other vehicles. It's a bit tricky to take it out because you have to tilt it together with lifting it out, since it's down there. So it takes a bit longer to lift it out compared to, say, a Leopard 2. But it's quite easy anyway, and the engine, the V8 DSI 14 liter, 550 horsepower is a quite powerful engine for this vehicle. The later versions, they had the 16 liter engine because Scania doesn't produce the 14 liter anymore, so they had to upgrade a bit, and it was a bit difficult to squeeze that a little bigger engine in, but they solved the problem. Reliable power pack, and it's the same as the British Warrior with the steering transmission. So it's very good, very reliable and easy to drive. This one is a bit more complicated, and that's why they changed for the X300 gearbox. The driver's hatch on this prototype opened differently from the series version, and since this vehicle has been through a lot over the years, it's a bit damaged, so the locking mechanism for the hatch doesn't work. So this was the prototype versions, open the hatch like this. On the series production they changed this, so the hatch is open this way, to the side instead. And frankly, I don't remember why they did that. I find this a lot better, since you have, well, some sort of rain protection over the head if you want to drive with open hatch, and also you don't have the hatch open here to interfere with the gun. You can travel the gun a bit more freely. Could be a reason that you could depress the gun a bit more in the sector front of the vehicle with the hatch open to the side. Could be a reason. So this is the prototype hatch with 3 periscopes, and you can change the center periscope to night vision periscope. Very easy to drive, automatic gearbox. Yeah, absolutely fantastic vehicle. When I studied which track to use, they looked at different options, and this is a Deal produced track that they used on some of the prototypes, and that was before they ended up with this one, which is an FMC track link that was later used on all the different CV90, which should have a rubber pad in the middle, but it's also possible to remove it in order to have better grip on ice and snow, etc. Today they are more and more into full rubber tracks, which actually works. It didn't work back then, but now the full rubber track actually works. So I think in the future more and more vehicles will have rubber tracks, because they have a lot of advantages over the steel tracks, which is the best, or it depends on what you look at. In some cases the steel tracks actually are better than the rubber tracks, and vice versa. So it's a compromise. This vehicle also has the possibility to reduce and increase the track tension from the inside, and by doing that you can increase the possibility to drive over soft ground. If you reduce the track tension, you get more track ground towards the ground, and because of that you can then drive on more soft terrain. And then when you are out of that soft terrain, you increase the track tension again to the sort of zero level. The gun of this vehicle is a Bofors 40mm L70 gun that is turned upside down. A bit modified for the CV90, and the ammunition is stored in magazines under the gun on the inside, so they are loaded, the magazines are loaded by the crew of the turret, and under the turret there is more ammunition storages, so you can fill up with more ammunition when these three magazines are empty or becoming empty. And around in this vehicle is a 40mm like this, quite powerful compared to smaller versions like the 25mm that was also an option from the beginning. This 40mm round has then been developed into much better versions later on, and one is the high explosive round, which also became better with a device on the inside where you could program for firing against helicopters, aircrafts. So you can fire 3 rounds in a row, dong dong dong, and when they got closer to the target they exploded a bit different in a row. So if you were close enough to the target, you had this dung dung dung, and the target was somewhere in between, and because of that it was a lot easier to destroy, for instance, a helicopter or an aircraft, instead of having to aim exactly at the target. So you can now aim a bit to the side, fire these 3 in a row, and you get a hit. So that ammunition was used against helicopters, aircraft, but it could also be used against infantry on the ground, since you could spread out on a bigger area of impact. This one, the armored piercing fin stabilized round, was developed a bit later, and this one is actually really good. With this you can fire against a tank to the side and you get penetration. Normally you could fire one or maybe 1, 2, 3, and with that you get definitely a hit through the target. And this one was actually tested on a vehicle that is on display here in the museum. Around 1991, Bofors actually bought this tank, the T-34, to use as a target for a commercial about the CV90 and this ammunition. So this is the type of ammunition fired here, and you can still see where the hits were from that firing. And on the inside you can also see the damage that it caused. It went through, and here we have a T-34 that has actually been in sort of battle, even if it was a commercial for Bofors and the CV90. In order to reduce the heat signature of the vehicle as much as possible, the hot part of the engine is at the front and the air is drawn through the side of the vehicle together with the exhaust, and with the radiators located at the rear you get all the heat from the engine coming out at the back, and that is then mixed, both the exhaust and the air from the cooling fans, in order to give as little signature of heat as possible. And it actually works, and it also reduces the sound quite a lot. On the Swedish version there is a door, a big door, and on the export versions they have a ramp. But it was decided for the Swedish version to use the door instead, because they thought and they tried, and the conclusion was it's a lot quicker to open and close a door than to open and close a ramp. So there are advantages and drawbacks. It's just a compromise, what you feel is the best for your use of the vehicle. And on this, the prototype, there's an angle on the door which is not on the series production. There you have a straight line. So here you can squeeze in 8 soldiers sitting for each side, and from the beginning they tested these chairs that came from Norway, but they were a bit complicated and expensive. So they tried to develop their own chair, which is this one. And this chair, designed by Hägglunds, they are actually still in use today, 36 years later. So that's really a very good design of a chair for the soldiers. On the APC 302 you have hatches on the roof in order to be able to fight from the vehicle with the squad at the back. And they decided to have the same on the CV90. So you can stand up as observation, but also to fire from the vehicle. You can put the machine gun up here and use that as well. From the beginning, these hatches, they opened towards the middle, but they realized that if they was firing against these hatches, the ricochets could go down into the vehicle. So they changed the open to the outside to give a little more protection for the crew members, and they have been quite successful. Later on the more modern versions, the turret got bigger towards the rear, so they don't have these hatches anymore. They have a hatch for the squad leader at the rear instead. Some people say they are good, some people say they are not so good, but it depends what you're going to use the vehicle in, what kind of situation. It's quite good to have 8 people standing up with 16 eyes looking out, helping the commander of the vehicle. So benefits and drawbacks depending on how to use the vehicle. The later C version of the CV90 got much better protection than the first A and B versions. So this is a mock-up where you can see the difference. And here, the green part is the base vehicle. And on the C version, you added on protection on the outside, these boxes, with different kind of armor, ceramic, etc. on the inside. There is also on the outside of the lower part of the chassis protection, and on the inside there is a liner that will catch splinter that goes through the outer layers and reduce the splinters going into the vehicle. There is also a plate down here, a bit over the floor, in order to protect the crew members' feet against the blast from underneath. So this is how it looks on a C version, with the outer protection, the normal chassis and the liner and mine protection on the inside. The task today in a fighting vehicle or a tank is do whatever you can to protect the crew, because the crew is the most vulnerable, the most valuable that you have. You can always build a new vehicle, but you cannot build a new crew member. So you have to protect the crew members at all costs. So that was the story behind the development of the CV90. A fantastic vehicle. Let's fire it up. Stay tuned.